Hello class, I hope you're off to a good start this quarter. Today we're going to talk about how your papers will be graded and how you can understand my comments because professor's comments can be very cryptic sometimes, and also what the guidelines to follow to revise your paper for a better grade. Okay, like any class, there is a certain routine to follow. In this class too, there's a routine for you to follow. So let me walk you through these steps. When you go to your home page, you'll see modules, right? The first module is course resources. And one of the pages is what to do after my essays are returned. Let's open that one. Okay, and this page explains exactly what to do after you get my feedback. But for more visual people, I'm making this video because it might work better for those of you who are more visually oriented. But before we do that, you need to open two pages. The first thing is if you go down here, there's a most common errors page. I want you to right click on it. When you right click, you'll see open in a new tab. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so there's a new tab opening, and it's a Quizlet website that I have created with the most common errors that you might want to address. And it's actually a flashcard website. You can look at it in this format, or you can look at it in the print format. My recommendation is for you to print this out. Okay, it's very important for you to study this list. It's organized this way: the name of the error, and an example error, an explanation, and how to correct it. Okay, and when you see your comments, my comments on your papers, in boxes you'll see numbers. Those numbers correspond to these numbers, okay? Because for each error I cannot just type in missing commas, this and that. Oh, don't do this. So I have devised a system whereby I just use a number and you'll know what that number means. Okay, so that page is open. Let's go back to this page. And then another document that you have to open up is this one, communication scale. Once again, right click on it and open in a new tab. And it's an Adobe Acrobat page, and it looks like this. Okay, this is the rubric I'll be using to grade your paper based on. And it's a little complicated to understand, but it's very important for you to understand how this works. Okay, it was designed by my former colleague named Professor Cameron. And okay, if you look at this, you'll see boxes. So I want you to think in terms of rows going up, and columns, two columns, right? And you can see big numbers and corresponding little numbers that would correspond to your points up to 100. Okay, for you to understand the principle behind this chart, you need to understand, okay, how can I make this smaller? Control minus, control minus, control minus. Okay, does that work? Okay, if you look at this chart together like this, at the very bottom of this chart, you'll see writer-centered, moving on up to reader-aware, but still writer-centered, basically reader-centered, adequately reader-centered, effectively reader-centered, artfully reader-centered. So you can see as your writing skills develop, you're gradually moving from this writer-centered approach, like I'm a writer, this is what I mean to say, and you don't have the wherewithal to understand whether that's communicating to your intended audience. You're not even aware of your audience, and then gradually you become more aware, and if you get really good at it, you become artfully reader-centered. Once again, this shows that writing just like speaking, is just another form of communication. A good analogy to use is, when little babies start to babble and start to talk, they come up with some phrase that they use for multi purposes. My daughter had this phrase, muto buto, and it all depended on the context. It was up to me to interpret what she wanted to say. If she would, I don't know, point to the fridge and she'd say muto buto, that meant she wanted milk. And if she pointed to her diaper and she would say muto buto, that meant that she needed diaper changing, that kind of thing. So you can see, I'm sure in her mind she was thinking, "Pardon me, Mom, would you be kind enough to change my diapers?" But really, on the receiving end of it, all I heard was muto buto. So you can see how the writer-centered approach is limited like that. And when you become a little reader aware, it's sort of like as kids get a little older, they become aware that there are other people around them, right? And they become aware that there are peers. And then they get into this dynamics of, when in the sandbox, who's got more power, who's got less power, and it's mine, that's his, that's hers, and that kind of awareness starts to grow, right? And then you become a teenager. And I had this trouble with my daughter all the time. We'd be driving somewhere and she would be sitting in the passenger's seat and she would just say something without any context whatsoever. And have you noticed that teenagers always mumble? And she would mumble something. And I'd say, "Can you run that by me again? Oh, what did you just say?" And she would just scream at the top of her lungs. She'd say, "Mom, you never listen." What do you think just happened? She was obviously writer-centered. I mean, she is aware that her mom was there to listen to her, but she was not effective enough to give enough context for me to be primed to listen to her message. I mean, I am a sympathetic listener, but she didn't give enough context to make me ready to receive her message, right? And then you become really artful. Let's say you're a 40-year-old guy, I'm stereotyping, right? And you want to buy an expensive boat. I don't know, a 20-footer or something like that. But your wife is not into boating or fishing or anything. So how would you communicate that need to your wife? I don't know. Some people might use the strategy of, "Honey, have you ever thought about vacationing without having to fly somewhere? Like it's almost like a weekend away from all the hustle and bustle of the home life, and yet you don't have to spend a fortune, and it's don't show me this message. Fortune, but it's just beautiful. You're removed from it. There's peace and quiet and all of that stuff." And she'll go, "Really? How can I do that? That sounds intriguing. I'm listening." That would be being artfully reader-centered, right? So that's how it moves up here. So that's the row by row kind of a thing. And then if you look at the columns, there are two columns. This side is tightening. That's what Tom called this side, tightening. And this side is expanding. What he means by that is if you look at the details here, like box number 5, you can get from 66 points to 70 here if you're placed here. At the top end, you can place the contents in a certain sequence. So order is the key. But at the lower end, you minimally discuss focus content or use but the structure is rather unproductive. There is a structure, but it's unproductive kind of a thing. So what it means is that you have a certain sequence, the order that the reader can follow. Whether it's successful or not is, up to you. So that's this part. You're kind of delivering the main message. But if you go to the expanding side, you'll see details. Not only do you have a certain structure, but there are enough details to support the structure. Or there is enough coherence so that everything will gel together. And there is a certain fullness and believability. The whole thing becomes a rich experience. And then at the very top, not only are you communicating very well with the reader awareness and all of that, but you've got your own style and a certain tone, that kind of thing. So when you get, let's say, 98.1, you'll know that you're at the lower end of this spectrum. Okay, and the double line here indicates that if you really come below this line, I actually say over here, that you are really below the English 101 level, and you should consider getting significant help from the Writing Center. Okay, that is the communication scale. So we have two tools to use. One is the communication scale, where your content and organization are evaluated based on, and then the most common errors, there are grammar and other mechanical errors such as punctuation. Okay, so let's go back to this page. So when you go to your home page, this is what you see, your modules. And I want you, and you will see on the right side, your personal essay has been graded. Okay, let's open that. You can get to it from here, or you can get to it from here. It will get you to the same place. So now all you can see is you can see your grade 92. But what does that mean? Okay, go to this page. There are details. On the right hand side at the top, you see 98. Takeaway 6. Takeaway 6, you lost 6 points out of 98, which is a really high score on the communication scale, right? But 6, you lost 6 points because you had some cosmetic errors like grammar and punctuation. And you can lose up to not 100, up to 10 points. How sad is it? It's sort of like you're as beautiful as Angelina Jolie, but you forgot to wash your face. Your face is covered in dust, then your reader will not understand fully see the beauty of your paper. How sad. So cosmetic things are very important. So you see this global comment. Amy, your organization and citations are excellent. If you want to make your argument even more effective, you might want to add more scholarly sources. Try ProQuest. That's the global comment, okay? And then you see this magnifying glass. Let's open it for specific comments. Okay, and this gives you a preview of your paper, and you can see it on this page called Crocodoc, and it's a page that opens up on the website itself. You don't have to go to a document page, and my comments are built in here, which is really cool. So here's your paper, and I added comments, and I highlighted. I don't usually highlight. Okay, one thing about my grammar and punctuation comments, those numbers from the Quizlet list, is that I only comment on one page, okay? Because the statistics show that students don't read teachers' comments. First of all, so I'm not going to waste my time commenting on every single page. Second of all, if the teacher comments on every single thing, the students will never learn how to fix their own errors. It's like spoon feeding. You need to be able to wean from that. So I only comment on the first page, and the rest you're on your own. But I still expect you to correct errors on other pages, okay? You cannot just say, oh, I have this tendency to use comma splices, and somehow you think it's some lovable flaw, you continue to make the same mistake. I don't find that cute, okay? So if you see the comments here, there's one corresponds to this page, common errors, missing comma after an introductory element. If you don't know what that means, look at the example, look at the explanation, and figure out how to correct it. Okay, so these are 21 wrong word. These are all mechanical comments. And then I have content comments, like I like the way you start with a personal account and end the paragraph with a generalization, which is the thesis statement in her case. So I want you to pay attention to both the mechanical comments and content comments, as well as the global comments. And then you can add you can respond to my comment. For example, teacher, I appreciate your comments, but I did my best trying to find good sources, but blah 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 blah. You always have excuses, don't we? Don't we all have excuses? So you can do stuff like that. Okay, so that's what you get when you get your paper returned to you. Okay, after that, what are you supposed to do? Let's go back to the revisions, no, the what to do when you get your paperback page. It tells you how to revise. You can revise your papers, which is really cool. Okay, but there are certain things you need to follow. First of all, you need to get rid of all of my comments. So you need to open your document in the Word processor and then get rid of my comments. You probably won't have it. You'll just make changes. And then when you make changes, I want you to highlight like this all the changes. Lose the comments, highlight the changes, because at the end of the quarter, I have to read your revisions, I have to read your last paper, I have to read tons of things. Practically I'm almost buried in grading. And when I'm buried in grading, I cannot reread every single paper you have revised. So if you make highlights, then I will just focus on the highlights and you will get the lost points back. Or if you made more significant changes, which you're encouraged to do, like adding some details or adding I don't know, making the sequence a little different, or adding a thesis statement, or adding more support and stuff like that. Highlight all those things. Sometimes you might have to highlight an entire paragraph if you added a new paragraph. That kind of thing. Then you will get a higher grade, I'm telling you. So it's really worth the effort. At the very least, you should highlight all the changes. You should change the grammar and punctuation errors so that you can get those lost points back. Okay? I hope this has been helpful. And if you have further questions, you know to email me, right? Good luck. Oh, by the way, before I forget. Okay, so I won't have time to see all of your revisions. You feel free to resubmit your revisions. But if you don't have enough time to send me revisions during the quarter and you want to put the revisions in your final portfolio where everything comes together, once again, highlight all the changes, okay? And then your last paper, your proposal paper, I won't have time to read and comment and get the revisions back from you before the quarter ends. So the proposal paper you're going to submit as part of your portfolio. Okay? And unfortunately for that paper, you won't have a chance to revise, but you will have a chance to get your peers' feedback. Okay? I hope that helps. Okay? Good luck.
Lesson 5 Checkpoint. 대화 1. 첫 번째 대화. 첫 번째 is a cardinal number, so it means the first. Or you could say 대화 1, which is a sign number, if you recognize it. 대화 means dialogue. So if I were to use the cardinal number, I'd say 첫 번째, the first. 첫 번째 대화, or 대화 1. 금요일에 어디에 가요? 금요일에 어디에 가요? 금요일 is one of the days of the week, right? Friday. 에 is a time marker. It's kind of like et in English, but it's placed after the noun as opposed to in front, which, in English it's called the preposition because it's placed in front of a noun, but in Korean it's called a place marker, and it comes after the noun. 어디에, 어디 means where, another place marker. 가요. 가요 means to go. So where do you go on Friday? Where do you go on Friday? 금요일에 어디에 가요? And once again, with yes/no questions like this, there's a rising intonation at the end. One more time. 금요일에 어디에 가요? And we have two characters here. One is 몽룡, very difficult to pronounce. 몽 with a ung ending at the end. 룡, 룡, 몽룡. Already, our r is very difficult for you to pronounce because it's somewhere between d and r. Because there's no rolling of the tongue. The tongue just touches the back of your upper teeth really briefly. It's called a flap. 몽룡, 몽룡, another sound. 몽룡 is this character from a famous Korean story called 춘향전. Means 춘향 is the female character. It's a story about 춘향. It's a love story. It has been made into many movies, many times. There's one recent, like 20 years ago, which is rather famous. Okay, 몽룡 is the male character, 춘향 is the female character. So 춘향 씨, 금요일에 어디에 가요? 춘향 씨, 금요일에 어디에 가요? 춘향, where are you going on Friday? 도서관에 가요. 도서관에 가요. 에, place marker. 도서관에 가요. Recognize 도서관? If you know Japanese, you might have recognized the word. That's basically the same Chinese characters we're using in Japanese and Korean with slight variations in pronunciation. I go to the library. 도서관이 어디에 있어요? 도서관이 어디에 있어요? This is a subject marker. This is a place marker. 있어요 means to be. So where is the library? 도서관이 어디에 있어요? 도서관은 학생회관 앞에 있어요. Let's break it down. 도서관은 학생회관 앞에 학생회관 앞에 You can see this put going up here, right? 앞에, it's called liaison. 있어요, same thing, right? S goes up here. Remember 학생회관? 학생회관 means the student center. 앞 means in front of. You know, people get confused about the location markers because in English it precedes the noun, but in Korean it comes after the noun. So if you say 도서관은 학생회관 앞에 있어요, that means the library is in front of the student center. The library is in front of the student center. You know, when I was studying English in junior high, one of the tricks that one of my teachers taught me was if you want to translate English correctly, you should read the subject and then go backwards, because Korean is left branching language, which means all the information comes here and the head, the main point is here. So this is the main point and then everything branches out this way. All the modifiers, like if you say very tall, beautiful, glorious, an actress, then the actress would come here and all these adjectives would go here. I mean, in English, it happens in English like that too, but if you say an actress who's pregnant, who has been on the cover of the Vogue magazine and this and that, that comes after the actress. But anyway, so I was told that a good strategy is just to recognize the subject and after that go backwards. And you can, so the same principle actually applies if your native language is English and you want to translate Korean correctly. This is easy. Watch me do this. The library is, so do the subject first because it always comes first. The library is in front of the student center. You see that? The first word, subject, and then go way to the back and then come back. The library is in front of the student center. Try that. Okay, so once again, 도서관은 학생회관 앞에 있어요. Oh, one other thing. 은 is a topic marker because the library is already mentioned. You just need this topic marker to indicate that we both, the speaker and the listener, understand what's being talked about. 도서관은 학생회관 앞에 있어요. 도서관에 누구하고 같이 가요? 도서관에 누구하고 같이 가요? Okay, let's break down the elements. Library, at, location marker. Who, with. See, once again, instead of with whom, we say who, with. 같이 is an adverb meaning together. Do you notice when I say 같이, I don't say 같이. As this moves up here, phonetic phenomenon called palatalization happens. So the consonant t moves forward. So it becomes 같이 가요. 같이 가요. Together, go. So let's try the backwards translation method. To the library, in this case to, not at the library. To the library, go together with whom? Doesn't quite work, but it kind of does. To the library, go, do you go with whom? To the library, once again, to the library, do you go together with whom? That makes sense, right? 도서관에 누구하고 같이 가요. Normal speech. 도서관에 누구하고 같이 가요? 저 혼자 가요. 저 혼자 가요. I go alone. 저 혼자 가요. And then now it turns into a harassment. I don't know. A lot of these male characters in this book are they kind of harass female characters. I don't know. I guess the author was trying really hard to make a conversation out of thin air. That's what I think. 그럼, in that case, 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. Let's do the same thing. In that case, let's go together with me. With me. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. normal speed. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. Very good. Okay. 대화 2. Sounds odd. 두 번째 대화. 두 번째 대화. I'm using the cardinal number, the second. 두 번째 대화. 대화, dialogue. 공원에 식당이 있어요. 공원에 식당이 있어요. Is there, there's no subject, so start with this. Is there a restaurant at the park? 공원에 식당이 있어요. 공원에 식당이 있어요. We have a lot of parks in Korea with restaurants inside because Koreans always have enjoyed looking at beautiful things and eating. We cannot just go to nature and not eat. So picnics are quite popular. And so, I mean, this picture actually comes from a story called I think in English it's called The Monkey King. It's a story about a monkey king going to India from China to get holy scriptures or something like that, if I remember it correctly. And there are all kinds of adventures. And he is accompanied by this one character who's actually a pig, 젖팔개. The Korean pronunciation of his name is 젖팔개. And the main character, the Monkey King, is called 손오공. 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 And there's a monk in the back. And I think there's one other character, and they all travel together to India, and all kinds of adventures happen. And I think it has been made into movies multiple times, and a cartoon too. But anyway, so it's a dialogue between 손오공 and 젖팔개. And there's, this negative stereotyping because he's a pig. He's talking about food all the time. And you'll notice it in the dialogue. 젖팔개 씨, 지금 어디에 가요? 젖팔개 씨, 지금 어디에 가요? 젖팔개. It's a vocative. 손오공 is just calling his name. 젖팔개. With the Mr. 젖팔개, being polite. Now, where go? So, do you go where now? Where do you go now? Where are you going now? 젖팔개 씨, 지금 어디에 가요? 지금 식당에 가요. 지금 식당에 가요. 지금, now, 식당, restaurant, place marker, go. I'm going to a restaurant now. If you listen to it carefully, you will hear this 당 here becomes 땅. Listen, 식당, 식당, 식당. This happens because of the interaction between the final consonant g and d together. It kind of strengthens this sound, so it becomes stronger somehow. Like the double di귿, double, like it's double. 지금 식당에 가요. Now I'm going to a restaurant. 지금 식당에 가요. 어느 식당에 가요? 어느 식당에 가요? 어느 means which. Restaurant, to, go. Which restaurant are you going to? 어느 식당에 가요? Koreans are really nosy people, I tell you. 한국 식당에 가요. 한국 식당에 가요. Korean restaurant, to go. I'm going to a Korean restaurant. 한국 식당에 가요. So now you can vary the restaurants into all kinds of cuisines, right? 중국 식당 would mean Chinese. 일본 식당 Japanese. 미국 식당 American. I mean, you name it. You can go crazy with this. 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? Because we don't want to say you directly, so we mention the name. So where are you going? 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? So the topic marker is appropriate here because what you're saying is let's change the topic. When it comes to you, where are you going? 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? I should have used the rising intonation. Once again, 손오공 씨는 어디에 가요? 저는 공원에 가요. 저는 공원에 가요. When it comes to me, I'm going to a park. 저는 공원에 가요. 누구하고 같이 가요? 누구하고 같이 가요? 누구, who, 하고, together, 하고, with, together, going. And you're going together with whom? See, backwards works. You're going, because you is implied. You're going together with whom? 누구하고 같이 가요? You know, depending on the intonation, the meaning of the sentence can vary a little bit. So, if I say 누구하고 같이 가요? With a serious rising intonation, it becomes, are you going with someone? But if you emphasize this and not a serious rising intonation, if you say 누구하고 같이 가요? 누구하고 같이 가요? That means who are you going with? I think in this context, it's just, are you going with somebody? So I would say 누구하고 같이 가요? 누구하고 같이 가요? 저 혼자 가요. 저 혼자 가요. I'm going alone. I'm going alone. Once again, these are the characters of the Monkey King. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. In that case, let's go together with me. 그럼 저하고 같이 가요. Notice this 같이, liaison happening. 그런데 질문이 있어요. 그런데 질문이 있어요. By the way, 그런데, another conjunction. 그런데, 질문, question, subject marker, there is. By the way, there is a question. There's a question. 그런데, 질문이 있어요. 그런데, 질문이 있어요. 질문이 뭐예요? 질문이 뭐예요? 질문이 뭐예요? What is your question? What is your question? What is the question? 공원에 식당이 있어요? 공원에 식당이 있어요? Is there a restaurant in the park? 공원에 식당이 있어요? 공원에 식당이 있어요? I've told you it's because 저팔계 is a pig. He's supposed to eat a lot and he's thinking about food all the time. Very un-PC, I'll say. That's it. I hope you have enjoyed it.